Welcome back, everybody, to
This is Keegan Wilson.
I'm Keegan. This is Rex, and we are talking about setting your minds on things above. We're really focusing on heaven, and we're just trying to explore what heaven's going to be like. A lot of people don't talk about it, so we just.
Do you think they have barbers in heaven?
They don't have barbers. They have. I will do my hair as I like. All right. Everyone mocks me. Why do you mock me?
Target-rich environment.
Target-rich environment. Okay, we're going to talk about the compensation of heaven.
Right.
And which sounds a bit crazy, almost sounds like we're owed something, but that's not what we're getting at. The compensation is what we are, I guess, what we're going to have when we're there, right? No?
We'll talk about it.
Okay, that's what we're here for. But I guess we first have to endure some of these jokes.
Get ready, people. Buckle up. Keegan, you got to work with me on these first ones, okay?
Yeah.
Knock, knock.
Oh, no. Who's there?
Hawaii.
Hawaii who?
I'm fine. Hawaii you.
Oh, man. Stop it.
Okay. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Take.
Take who?
You're welcome. Okay. Couple.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're talking about going to heaven, right?
Yep.
So this couple was like 85, 90 years old. Mm-hmm. And because the wife, just the first few years of their life, they didn't do this, but the last 10, 20 years of their life, they just really ate right. They did it all right. The brand, the cereal, everything. Yeah. They did it according to the rule. And they were really healthy. They were doing really well. And I think they were like 85, and they went on this vacation, which they rarely did, but the plane crashed. They both died simultaneously. So they go to heaven. Now they're talking to Peter, and in heaven, and he's showing them around and welcoming them, and so they can see everything. And they go by a golf course, and they both love golf, and he's talking to them. How much does it cost to play golf? I said, "Oh no, it's free here." He says it's free. There's no green fees. No, you can play as much as you want, as often as you want. I said, wow, that's great. And so they go to their house, and they see a house they're going to live in, and says, well, how much is this going to cost me? And he says, well, it's not going to cost you anything. It's free here. That's your reward. You're in heaven. It's all free. And so then they go where there's this restaurant, and they said, well, how much is the food here? So it's for free. And he said, you can eat whatever you want. And he says, well, what about the diet foods, like the brand cereal, stuff like that, so they would stay healthy. He says, you can eat anything you want here. Eat as much of it as you want, and you never get fat, and you never get sick. He says, wait a second. So you're saying all of this is free. It says, and I can eat what I want. I don't have to worry about blood sugar. I don't have to worry about being healthy. I can do whatever I want, eat as much as I want, and it's not going to kill me. He said, no, we're in heaven. And he turns to his wife and says, and if you hadn't fed me that brand cereal all this time, we'd have been here 10 years earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The treasure of heaven.
That's why they come here, for the jokes. Okay.
Treasure of heaven. We often hear about this one. Store up your treasure in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy. Right. So, okay, firstly, how do I do that? How do I store up treasure in heaven? I don't have a bank account that I could transfer money to.
Well, when you transfer money to others, or good works, it's transferred automatically.
And then why would I do it? If heaven's going to be, let's go like your joke there. If heaven's going to be free and everything's going to be wonderful, why would I need treasure in heaven?
It was a joke.
No, I know, but it's still a good point. Why do we need?
But it may not be like that. So, you may need it for all I know. I don't know. Maybe you need. But on the other hand, I'm not saying that the reward for your gifts may not be the money. That's not necessarily a reward. Is a reward, but often a reward is not equal to the thing. So, for example, if you find a lost dog, somebody doesn't give you a dog. They give you a reward, which is like money or something else, and get couponed or something, take you for ice cream. They don't give you a dog. So it's not unusual that the reward is not exactly the same thing as was given.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't mean that it won't be that either.
Mm.
There could be something like that given. For all I know, God gives gold to people every time they put something in. I have no idea. I really just don't know.
So, but what we do know is that there are rewards.
Right, and they call them treasures. Lay up your treasure. So there's treasure. Of course, a memory is a treasure.
That's a good point.
And so you lay up your treasure, and but Luke 14:14 talks about how that you'll be repaid at the resurrection. So there is some form of payment. And so that's the reason I wasn't sure I wanted to agree with you a moment ago.
Yeah.
When you were saying, well, it's not owed to you. Well, if it's a reward, it's kind of owed. Heaven isn't owed to you. That's a gift. But potentially what you did that you went above and beyond the call of duty, then, it's like when you get God's favor. Let's say when you are punished for something you didn't do and you take it patiently, Lord says, that's worthy of a reward. And so whenever we go above and beyond, that's worthy of something. It's like you need to be compensated for that. Well, so it is, in a sense, being paid for it.
Yeah. So let's be, obviously the one persecution. So people that are persecuted for the sake of Christ.
Right.
It does seem to be a reward for enduring that.
Right. That's exactly. And we're talked about, for example, Hebrews 11 and verse 26, when it says that Moses endured for the sake of Christ to receive greater riches. So there is this belief even among them that it might be riches itself, because Moses was rich. Moses was rich. I mean, he's in the Pharaoh's family, and there's a lot of money there. And yet he thought this would be greater riches.
Well, and it brings me to the rich man. We all know that story where he comes to Jesus and says, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, I want more. And Jesus says, well, you want to be saved? And he says, yes. And he says, well, follow the law. And he says, I have. And then it's almost like, well, I want more. And Jesus says, okay, well, sell everything. Let's go. And then he could
and you'll have treasure in heaven.
And you'll have treasure in heaven. So there seems to be, yes, he was saved from that conversation, but having more in this respect, treasure, he had to give up his life basically, and
right. Now, he's not in that story. He's not really earning a salvation. This is about greater treasure.
Yeah.
So in that story of the rich man coming to him, this isn't about him being saved. This is about how deeply involved his commitment's going to be.
Yeah.
And so he was already saved. He's already obeying the commandments, already under the grace of God, already under the covenant of God. Therefore, he be saved by God's goodness. Great. And so he's saved. But if he wanted to be perfect, then he could go sell everything he had, come be one of the disciples, because he couldn't carry that around and tend that and be out, on the road.
And it's very obvious that this is the same talking point, because later on in that chapter, the disciples are saying, well, what's in it for us?
Right.
And they're asking that because they're saying, well, what's our reward for going through all this? I mean, that guy, he was told he was going to get a reward if he came. So what are we going to get? And Jesus says you'll have a seat in judgment.
Right.
And
well, you know, 12 thrones.
12
I don't know
thrones,
if that's what it's talking about, judgment.
12
but yeah,
thrones.
he's right.
But there obviously is a reward in that respect. So.
Well, I mean, in the other side too, Luke 12, 47, 48 talks about somebody who did something that's not good, but they didn't know it. They'll be beaten with few stripes, and somebody who knew it was wrong and did it, they'll be beaten with many stripes. So it does seem that it works both ways. You can lay up a treasure, Matthew 6:20, on the other hand, and you can do something, it'll abound to your account, Philippians 4:17. So it's like you have an account in heaven. That's the term it uses. Now, does that mean it's monetary? It could be, but it may be multiple things. It may be lots of different things. And there's just no way to know, but it does talk about treasures in heaven. I mean, that's talked about over and over again. And you can also treasure up wrath against yourself. So Romans 2 and verse 5. So that seems to suggest that treasure doesn't necessarily mean
Good stuff.
No, it might mean gold and silver,
Yeah.
doubloons, but it may, pirate's treasure, but it may rather mean that it's just the multiplication of it, the addition of the benefits.
Okay, this leads me to, I guess, for most people, this is obviously a simple question, but for some who might be struggling with this, does that mean I can't have nice things here on earth? If I've got to give it all up so I can have treasures in heaven?
Oh, no. In fact, that was the rich young ruler. The problem wasn't that he was rich, because he's not lost. Everybody wants to make him lost, but he's just rich. You can be rich. If you can't be rich and be saved, Abraham's not saved. Abraham was wealthy.
David's not saved.
400 men worked for Abraham.
Yeah.
He's doing okay. Don't worry about him.
David, Solomon.
David was a king. Yeah. Solomon, the richest man maybe on the planet ever. And so, no, that's not essential. It's not essential that you live in poverty. I mean, you can choose that. You can choose to live in poverty. I mean, Jesus did. And that's the greater path if you can choose it and do good things.
So you don't have to give up your iPhone.
No. No, or your computer.
Your computer, yeah.
Yeah, or your barber. So, but you can. Now, we need to know that these things can be intangible, like Colossians 2 and verse 3, or hidden the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So, wisdom and knowledge is a treasure. And so maybe these things are truly just spiritual things in the sense of benefit. I mean, if suddenly you got to heaven and said, okay, your blessing is that you're going to be 10 times wiser than you've been. Or you're going to know 10 times more than you knew. I don't know. I'm just using.
Or even a position of authority, as we see that the disciples are offered that. So
absolutely.
Why is that not that is possible then?
Yes, we're actually going to talk about that a little bit next week. But yeah, that's a discussion point for next week.
That's good. All right, the pleasure of heaven.
Right.
So Psalms 16:11. Let's quickly read that one.
Yeah, that's a great passage.
You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore.
Fullness of joy, pleasures forevermore.
Forevermore. That's a big word.
That's a good word.
Everlastingness, enduring.
So
That's
yeah.
Cool. That's really cool.
And it's your right hand, which, by the way, the Lord Jesus was at his right hand. Is your right hand is fullness of joy. It's Jesus.
Yeah.
So having Jesus is fullness of joy.
Is everything. Yeah. That's a good point. Huh. So, can you explain like the pleasure of heaven? Like what is going to give us pleasure? What is going to be so fulfilling and so exciting?
I think a lot of it will be the same things that gave us pleasure as a Christian here. It's when we see good is done. I mean, you know that the angels, we didn't talk a lot about this last week, but that was one of the things we could have looked at is how when one person repents, that the angels rejoice. And when we get to heaven, the Lord, because we confessed the Lord in this world, the Father confesses us in that world before his angels. And so there's something to just these intangible things that can come our way. The great blessings that's hard to put your finger on sometimes.
Okay, so here's something I was thinking about. I like dogs. Dogs are cool. So, it's...
Are you prejudiced against cats?
Yeah, no.
You've heard it here first.
You are. But so will there be animals in heaven? I mean, they bring us pleasure. Will there be dogs and cats and goats and I don't know, all sorts of things?
Well, I like this thought here. Something ugly is sometimes beautiful.
Okay.
I like introducing this thought with that. Something ugly is sometimes beautiful. I don't know why that's true, but it is true.
Are you advocating for something? Or?
Yeah. Romans 10 verse 15 says, how beautiful are the feet of those that preach the gospel of peace. It has nothing to do with the way the feet look. I mean, a lot of people think feet are nice. Some people think they're ugly. And so, but it doesn't matter. So some things are beautiful, not because of the way they look or what they do, but because of what they accomplish.
Yes.
And so sometimes beauty is totally beautiful. Okay. We talk about the city that we go to. It's going to be gorgeous. So that means, to me, that suggests that cats may be in heaven because something ugly could be actually beautiful. Just using that as an example because you were on cats, but dogs as well. And so the idea is so could they be in heaven? Well, Ecclesiastes 3:21. You want to read that one for us?
Ecclesiastes 3:21. Yes, I can. So it says, who knows whether the spirit of man goes upward and the spirit of the beast goes down into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his work, for that is his lot. Who can bring him to see what will be after?
You don't have to read the whole chapter. So, but the idea is, that we don't know. We don't know. Yeah. And so I don't know. But if the animals here, that's the end. It goes downward and our spirit goes upward. He's saying there.
He's asking in question form.
Right.
Like who knows?
Well, and he's taking it, you know the book. The book is based upon two different lifestyles. One, life under the sun, and life under the sun. Yeah. And so one has to do with living life the way most people live it from the perspective that God doesn't matter. And the other one, living life. Yeah. And living the life under God himself. And so the question is does it matter? It probably doesn't matter because I like what Billy Graham said one time. Somebody asked him, is my dog going to be in heaven? The dog had passed away, and we love that dog. Is my dog going to be in heaven? And Billy Graham said this. He said, well, in heaven, you're going to be happy. And God knows what makes you happy. If that's what it takes for you to be happy in heaven, I'm sure that's exactly what he's going to do because he's going to make sure you're happy in heaven.
That's a good way to answer it.
Yeah.
But I will say, I know my
Pretty
dog's
smart
will be
guy.
in heaven.
Okay, well, that's good.
Because my sister and
I come talk to him about your animals.
My sister and I baptized our dog, so we
you baptized your dog. That's called punishment.
We were
cruel and unusual. You're not supposed to do that.
Bounce, are you going under?
That's really bad. Okay, I don't advocate for that. Okay. So, but now there are references to animals that appear to be in that realm. There are references to it, and unless you consider everything to be a metaphor or an allegory or just a parable-like thing, there's like 2 Kings 2:11, the horses of fire were pulling Elijah's chariot of fire. So were they real horses? Well, they're not normal horses if they're horses of fire, but it doesn't mean that he didn't think that they were horses. He thought they were horses. Maybe they weren't horses.
But there was some sort of animal-like creature.
Well, Revelation 6:2-8, it's those 4 horses. You've always heard the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Right, but there were 4 horses under each one of them, and he talks about the color of each of those horses. So not only did they look like horses, he described them. So there are horses in that text. So, and then we're told in Revelation 19 and verse 14, he told that the army, that he, faithful and true, he leads forth an army, and the entire army is riding on white horses, it says. So which looks beautiful, but I mean, if you've ever seen an army on horses, it's actually a beautiful thing to behold. So
it also seems like God does, he cares for the animals too. We do sometimes forget that.
That's a really good point. Exodus 29-10, he talks about how that you are not to, you read it.
Do you want me to read the chapter?
No, just verses 9 and 10 would be sufficient to make this point because we actually have to end this class eventually.
Right, it says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. You, or your son, or your daughter, your male servant, or your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to let your livestock keep working that day.
Well, I even find it interesting when...
So God cared about the livestock.
Yeah, because I also see it in when Jonah goes to Nineveh and the king's fast. Even the livestock were made to fast.
Jonah 4:11, though, it also says, read Jonah 4:11. It's more than that, because you remember the king had them all dressed in sackcloth. Look at verse 11.
Should not I pity Nineveh, that great city, in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from their left, and also much cattle.
So he cared about the cattle
as well. I know, it's weird that he ends up with that. It's pretty cool.
And Deuteronomy 25:4 says, don't muzzle the ox. So treat the animal appropriately. Don't be, one of my favorite is this one. You might turn and read this. Proverbs 12 and verse 10. I love that passage. Proverbs 12 and verse 10. It gives me a new attitude toward cats.
Whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel.
You can't be cruel to your animal. Otherwise, you're not a good person. Okay, that's why I don't own cats. But no, seriously, it's really difficult to see a person who wouldn't treat every animal right. So you don't mistreat animals. That's the one thing I was taught all my life. You never mistreat an animal. You never hurt an animal.
It shows what's in your heart.
But it also suggests that God cares about them. Let's look at one. Matthew 10, verse 29.
Matthew 10, 29.
Then we're going to need to move off of that.
All right. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, and not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father?
So God's watching the sparrow when it falls to the ground.
Yeah, every single one.
So God loves animals. So might there be animals in heaven? So, that would make sense if he did.
What you're saying is don't kill spiders and cockroaches.
I really don't kill much of them anymore. That's a weird thing that's happening to me that it's kind of bothers me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on. So the measure of heaven.
Okay.
This is exciting because, I mean, once again, it's coming from Revelation. Is it symbology or is it literal?
Depends on if it's a furlong or...
Yeah. But there seems to be a huge city.
Right.
And, okay, and sort of separate it. I mean, a huge city within heaven. So the city itself is how big?
Well, according to Revelation 21:14 through 17, it's about 1,500, between 14 and 1,500 miles cube. Yeah. It's like a cube. And apparently it can fly because it descends.
And I looked at the wall around it, so that the angel's measuring the wall.
Right.
And he measures 144 cubits, which is, 1 cubit is 18 inches. And for those of you who are intelligent and speak English, it's 45 centimeters.
Is that high or is that thick?
I'm not sure. It seemed to be thick.
Yeah.
Which seems incredible.
Right.
That's huge.
But if it's 1,400, 1,500 miles cubed,
that makes sense.
Then it makes sense.
Exactly.
I mean,
this massive, massive, thick wall.
Yeah, that may be where we live, is in the wall, and the city's in the inside. I don't know. Yeah, it might make sense. So but it's not only called. We're told about a city. Hebrews 11:10, 12:22, 13:14, Revelation 3:12. All of it point to this city. So there is a city that we will live in, but we'll go in and out. Doors not closed, and these portals are like giant pearls, portals like big balls, I guess, that roll in and out of the doorway. We're also told that it's a country. Luke 19:12 talks about a far country. Hebrews 11 verse 16 talks about a heavenly country. So it's not just a city; it's more than that. We know that there's a new heaven and a new earth. So it's that too. So it's a city, it's a country, it's a world, it's a universe.
Yeah.
So it's bigger than we tend to think.
It sounds like back in Eden days where heaven and earth were together.
Well, and another one, here's an interesting one, is Luke 19:17 and then 19. The other way of telling the parable of the talents is the man that was faithful received over 5 talents. He's made ruler over 10 cities. And the one that was faithful over 2, I think he's ruler over 5 cities. And so that sounds like there are other cities. So Jerusalem's not the only city.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the new earth is not the only earth and not the only world. And it just sounds like it's vast. The discussion of nations or ethnics, Revelation 2:26, Revelation 22:2, there are other nations there. And so, I mean, it seems to go on. And of course, John 14:1-4 talks about, you want to read that.
So John 14:1-4, it says, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. And you know the way to where I am going." And Thomas said to him, "Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way?" And Jesus said to him, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me."
Yeah. So it sounds to me like there's a lot of room there and he went to prepare a place. So it's obviously his going was partly his going to the cross, but it does suggest that literally dwelling places for each one to be in.
That sounds like a home.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds like...
See, the way I imagine it, this is crazy, I know, but I imagine it was all getting like apartments, if you will, or houses built into the wall of heaven. And it's just immense. I mean, how many stories could you get on something that's 1,400 miles high?
Yeah.
I don't know either.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's huge.
All right. Last topic on this compensation. So we've got treasures in heaven. We've got pleasures. There's a huge city.
Right.
Am I going to be relaxing? Will there be leisure? Will there be a beach I can go and sit on?
Well, there won't be an ocean, but there might be a beach somewhere. But I don't know.
Maybe at the lake or something.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's going to be a lot of mixed swimming in heaven. I don't know. But I have no idea. It doesn't, there's no discussion of a beach, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but will there be...
I think it's dangerous to think that it's going to be boring.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is it possible to become bored there?
Can people be bored? Probably.
Yeah.
People could choose to be bored because often boredom is a choice. You haven't occupied yourself, and that's kind of a personal responsibility to not be bored.
Are bored listening to us, it's there.
It's personal. They should be watching something else. It's a personal responsibility. It's not my responsibility. And
That's a good point. Yeah.
So Revelation 3:6, though, talks about you don't want to end up blaspheming the name or the tabernacle or those that are in heaven.
Yeah.
So if you're bored, it's suggested that you're bored with what's in heaven and the people who are in heaven. That's it. That's getting close to blasphemous.
And that's Revelation 13.
13 verse 6.
Sorry, you said 3, but 13.
Sorry, I said it wrong.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Because that's also talking about Satan deceiving us.
Right.
And so, if we're becoming bored, well, what are we really giving into?
Well, clearly, we were created to do good works, and that doesn't mean just in this life, but that means forevermore. Ephesians 2:10. That's what we were created to do. And then Revelation 7:15, 22:3, both of them indicate that we serve him day and night. That's what we're going to do. Whatever is the work he chooses for us to do, that's what we must do. And as you recall, the angels that sinned, what they sinned at is they left the work they'd been assigned to do.
Yeah.
They left their position.
Left it, yeah.
So whatever it is, I think it's important. Otherwise, he wouldn't care if he left it. It's clearly important. I think we're going to think it's important.
So we're going to be doing things like serving God, singing praises.
Absolutely. I think there'll be a lot of singing praises. There's a lot of reference to this.
Yeah, I guess
worshiping and praising.
If you find that boring now,
I can't imagine people being bored with if we have capability of singing better than here. I can't imagine you being bored with that for a while anyway. And of course, it's not going to be 24/7. That's all you do.
Yeah. No.
But still, I can't imagine you being bored with that.
There'll be a lot of laughter as well. We forget about that. Romans 8:18. Should we read that one?
Yeah, read it.
Creativity. So it says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God." I love that creation is waiting for God. And I think of the whole of creation.
I think they're excited. It's excited. Somebody pointed this out the other day. It sounds like the earth is excited. It's like everything's excited about it happening.
It seems like even, the trees,
whatever. It's all excited that it will happen soon. And so where I'm getting at is, and I went to this because like Exodus 35:35 talks about the ones who built the temple and their skills. So I see that it's so many things to be excited about. Obviously being saved, being glorified, all that's wonderful. Worshiping God. Yes. Fabulous. Mountain, the Lord's house, literally mountains there, and beautiful scenery and gardens and cities and all that's wonderful.
Things to
do. We've been created to serve him and to use creativity. And he specially gifted people, Exodus 35:35, with skill to design things. And since we're a creator child, we're creator's child, I can't see us not being like him. We're created to be like him. He's creator. So I see us being creative, maybe making machines. There might be dancing. There might be stories. There may be books that people would write, art, drama, entertainment, plays, sports. I can imagine, I heard one guy talk about this. Imagine sporting events in heaven, or going to a play, or going to, for that matter, a restaurant, or seeing someone's art exhibit in heaven. I mean, all the things that you've ever imagined here that men have done that you were astounded with, like Mozart or Beethoven, and they've got unlimited time, unlimited resources to perfect things. Yeah. And I just think, in the skill that you will have in the new creation, I can't imagine how interesting it will be. Not boring, but far more interesting than this world, as interesting as this has been.
I think it's a good question to pose to viewers. Like, what excites you now?
Yeah.
And what do you suppose it will be like in heaven? What do you want to do there? What are you going to do? What are you going to enjoy watching?
And I believe there would be different things that appeal to different people.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, everything doesn't appeal to me now. I don't want to really go and watch ballet. I will, but it's not something that's not me. And so there would be things that I wouldn't
participate. Yeah.
Yeah. But if it was a football game, I don't know, or cricket for that matter, I could enjoy that and enjoy watching that. Golf game, I could go to sleep for watching that.
It won't be a 5-day test match. It'll be like a 100-day test match.
I could go to sleep watching golf. Or I don't know if there'll be stock car in heaven though. I don't know. But still, can you imagine though what kinds of things you might be up to just to have some fun,
just to make and stuff. Yeah, I think it's good, and I think it's a good point to leave on, to just keep our minds open and our imagination.
Set your mind on things.
Our imagination's running on what is to come.
Clearly, he wants us to spend time working here, but he also enjoys us having leisure time, and he's made that plenty of time available. So I think he's for it.
Yeah.
Set your mind on things above.
So let's finish there because we're out of time. But yeah, thanks, Rex. We spoke about the treasure of heaven, the pleasure of heaven, the enormity of heaven, and just the fulfilling activities and things that we can look forward to. And, and once again, it all is
organization is next.
It's all revolved around God. Yeah. So next week we'll be talking about the organization of heaven, and we'll see how things get organized, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for joining us. See you guys.
See you.